Hey folks, it's your pal Mike Shea from slyflourish.com and twitter.com/slyflourish, here with another episode of Sly Flourish's Lazy DM Prep. This is a weekly show broadcast live on Twitch at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sundays, and is also rebroadcast to YouTube, and now, just recently, is being reposted in podcast format on the DM's Deep Dive podcast feed, available on the Don't Split the Podcast network. You can check that out by going to your favorite podcast app and looking for DM's Deep Dive. They are so the fine folks, Rudy and James, are taking previous episodes. So right now, I was just listening to the episode. It was the second episode of Waterdeep Dragon Heist. So they are doing the entire Waterdeep Dragon Heist run that I have done in this show in podcast form, well edited. So they're running, in the case of the last one, about a half an hour instead of the hour long of me pontificating nonsense. If you are live on Twitch, please say hello, and we can chat about any topics. And I want to thank the fine backers of my Patreon page, patreon.com/sly_flourish, I think it is. Let's see. I have a link somewhere. Let's open that up. It is Sly Flourish no underscore. There's an underscore for the Twitch channel. Sorry, nothing I can do about that. So in this show, I go through the steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master, which you can see right here, while preparing for my game. And we go through the 8 steps. If you're not familiar with the 8 steps, you can check out the videos below. There's both a sample chapter from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master available to everyone for free, and there is a video series. There's one video where I go through all 8 steps, and then another individual videos where I talk more in detail about each of these 8 steps. So if you're not familiar with the 8 steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master for game prep, those are a bunch of free ways you can do it. You can also buy the book and read it. It's in the book too, and I think you should. So what I'm doing right now, so Sunday, this is all in preparation for my Sunday D&D game, and right now I am playtesting adventures from Sly Flourish's Fantastic Adventures, Ruins of the Grendleroot. This was a Kickstarter I ran last month. It just finished last Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday at 9. It completed, and it did very well. It funded well. I'm very pleased, and now I am down deep in the weeds of making sure that this book is awesome. And one of the ways I make sure it's awesome is by playtesting. And in particular, playtesting from other DMs, but I can't rightly ask other DMs to playtest an adventure if I have not run it myself. So I am going through all 10 adventures and running them for 2 different groups. I've run a bunch of them already. In fact, I think I have 3 left, including the one that I'm doing today. So I've playtested 7 of them so far. Let's take a look and see if I've done them all. This is, by the way, is the sample chapter of Ruins of the Grendleroot. You can download the sample chapter for free, or sample chapters, which also includes a level 1 adventure called The Call of Starsong Tower. It includes great artwork and maps and everything else. So if you want to see what this book is going to be like, check out this adventure and you will know what it's like, because they're a lot like this. Really nice artwork. Look at all that great stuff. It's going to be awesome. So that one was playtested a while ago by a bunch of different people. So adventures. Let me go through the list and see. So I've playtested Call of Starsong Tower is playtested and done. Temple of the Forgotten God I playtested a couple of weeks ago. Spire of Violet Falls I playtested at a game convention a few weeks ago. Fistful of Copper I ran 2 weeks ago. That was really great. Shatter I ran last weekend. That was the one previously to this group. Chewel I ran on this past Wednesday. The Cell I'm going to run for my Wednesday group next Wednesday. White Queen is today's adventure. And then I've already playtested Children of the Red Rose, but it was level 3 at the time, and now it's level 5. So I might playtest it again to make sure that it maintains the same kind of pace that it needs to maintain. So I might run that for my Sunday group as well. And then Seed of the Black Cathedral I am going to run for my... that is probably for my Wednesday. It might either be my Sunday or Wednesday game, depending on if my Wednesday group is good with doing another playtest. They've kind of done a bunch of these already. So that is the playtest schedule for me. At that point, they will all be playtested by me, and then they will be ready to put together and playtest packets. And at that point, I should have received the funding from the Kickstarter, and then I can start recruiting people from the Kickstarter as playtesters. And the way that works is I have a Google form, and they put their email address in a Google form, and then I split the results up into groups of 3. And then not groups of 3 groups of the total playtesters. And each of those 3 groups will get a playtest packet that includes 3 adventures to play. And that is that will cover the 9 adventures. So, and I'll try to mix them up so that they sort of get like a 3, 4, and a 5. And that way, groups can try them all. And then if a group comes back and like, wow, we played them all, we'd like to play some more, they will get another playtest packet. So if a group is really hardcore and wants to play all of them, they can probably play all of them. What I don't want to do is kind of give everybody a playtest packet of 9, and they all do the first one and nobody does the final one. So I want to kind of mix them up. And those packets will be done around the same time that I am finished with playtesting all of the adventures. So I think that will go well. And that way we'll have lots of people playtesting all of these adventures. I really want it to be solid. Anyway, so today I am running the Vault of the White Queen, which I think I have here. Nope, that's not the right one. I have to hang on a second. Here we go, the White Queen. Let's pop up in a new window and drop in the White Queen. There it is. This is what a playtest document will look like. It's a very boring Word template. Evil John, I hope you can help playtest as well. There are 2 ways to be a playtester. One is if you backed the Kickstarter, you will see a message, an update will come out with a link to sign up for the playtest. A second way to playtest it is to join the Patreon. If you're on the Patreon, the Sly Flourish Patreon, you can playtest there as well. They are added directly into the list as well. So even if they didn't back the Kickstarter, they still have the opportunity to playtest. Wow, backer number 1. Man, you deserve something special. What can I give you? I should give you something cool. I don't know. Man, I got to write that down. Do something cool for Evil John. First backer. I don't know how you did that. That's pretty amazing. Ooh, hot. Oh, I gotta remind myself. Do something cool for Evil John in my to-do list. Cool for Evil John. There. Push a notification. Nah, man, you deserve something. Number 1 backer deserves something. So, what can we do? Yeah, so let's start. Okay, so last week we did Shatter. And if you recall, and I kind of want to apologize up front because although the Kickstarter is over and you can't actually pay for it yet, but the idea of kind of pitching my own wares on this show is not, feels unseemly. It's one thing for me to go through steps from Return to the Lazy Dungeon Master because that's kind of my thing. It's something else for me to like constantly talk about my own adventures. So that's a little weird. So I'll try not to like dive into like, wow, these are the best things ever. But because I'm working through them, so we'll see if they're any good. And last week, I didn't really do any prep. I just kind of walked through the adventure because there wasn't any real prep to do because the format of the adventures follows the steps from Return to the Lazy Dungeon Master. However, this time I do because now I know who the characters are. One of the things that I didn't know in the previous session was who the characters are. But now I do. So we're going to jump over to... here is my game notes. And while many of the steps we won't have to go through, we'll go through them, but we'll be going through them. Is this while working? Yeah, that's all. I'm making sure my windows are lined up. So while we don't go through all the steps here, we will be going all through the steps in the adventure. But the main ones that we always start with this, as you recall, step 1 is review the characters. So let's look at the characters. We had 5 characters last week. We had Little Bag of Sand, a Tabaxi rogue anthropologist, played by Jerry. I don't remember. Oh, there's a kitty. That's Maliki. Hello, Maliki. Hello. What's going on? Maliki's curious. Maliki always wants to know what's going on when I'm doing this stuff and who I'm talking to. So, Little Bag of Sand, Tabaxi Rogue Anthropologist. I don't recall that anything major came from that, but there's lots of room for anthropology here. There's lots of ways that somebody who has been kind of studying the anthropology of Blackclaw. There's, it is just thick with anthropology. There's stuff going on all throughout this mountain. Adrick Foamtankard, played by Pat, is a dwarven light cleric who is a member of the Order of the White Sun. So the Order of the White Sun, there was probably one of the most prominent. Wow, cat just jumped into the windowsill. One of the most prominent moments in the history of Blackclaw Mountain was there was a Majorcracy called the Majorcracy of the Majorcracy of the Black Star. These were 9 mages who conducted vast and terrible magical experiments, all in a city known as Shadowreach that was built for them. All of their slaves and conscripts and undead servants and everything like that built a city for them just so they could study and work. And they did so for about 300 years. But meanwhile, outside of the mountain, a group of paladins, clerics, and priests and warriors known as the Order of the White Sun realized that the Majorcracy was getting too powerful, that they were doing some terrible stuff there, and eventually they're going to have to be broken. And after being sort of deadlocked in a should we leave them be or should we go attack for many years, they finally said they're going to attack. And they spent like 30 years preparing for the attack because they knew that these are 9 archmages. It's not going to be easy. So they... going on back there. So they prepared, they got their armies ready. They actually made a group of people called the Mage Slayers, which are like bards that are loaded with counter spells and dispel magics and things like that. Now I got both cats. No one's paying attention to anything I'm saying. So the Order of the White Sun came into the mountain and defeated the Majorcracy. They killed 4 of the 9 archmages. One of them was sort of trapped in a ring on the finger of an archdevil, and then 4 of them got away and disappeared. And the 4 that got away are somehow still out there. One of them happens to be a sort of a vampire who was the head of undeath, was an undead vampire necromancer named I forget her name. Damn. Well, it's in the white. Hang on. Why don't I look at my own notes? Corvillia, the White Queen. She was previously known as Corvillia, the Daughter of Death. And she studied necromancy. Well, when the Majorcracy was shattered, she fled to one of her vampiric chambers, and she stayed there for centuries. And over the centuries, her demeanor has sort of changed. And now she's not, she's more neutral than she is evil. She was certainly evil at the time, but over the centuries, her personalities shifted ever so slightly. And the adventure we're going to run today may shift it further. Anyway, the Order of the White Sun is still out there. The Order of the White Sun eventually left the mountain after the Grendleroot woke up and all the big spires pierced through. They took off and went back outside of the mountain. But now they're starting to return again to just kind of say, like, is everything cool here in the mountain? So Adrick Foamtankard, Pat's character, was a member of the Order of the White Sun. They are a lot looser than they were before. Like, the organization before was sort of a very militant group. It's like Fight Club back there. The Order of the White Sun now is a much looser organization, but they still send people in to go, like, what exactly is going on in it? And actually, my wife's character in our Wednesday game is also a Order of the White Sun group. They do this. They play King of the Hill a lot. And it goes on like this. That was a real long history of that, but that whole Order of the Black, or Majorcracy of the Black Star and Order of the White Sun is sort of a major theme that occurs throughout. Not so much of the main adventures, but certainly in the campaign arc, which I'm working on. We might talk about that a little bit later. Snax! Juliet's character Snax is a kobold bard urchin who lived underneath Deepdelvers in little warrens underneath, and has a pet mouse named Boris who speaks like a Russian spy. Oh, the cats just took off. And knows things underneath. Wow, what are you people doing? I'm trying to do a show. It's very unprofessional. So her character lived underneath Deepdelvers Enclave, but has since become a Since has now come out from underneath and is now part of the Enclave along with everybody else. Vale is a Vedalken, Vedalken, Vedalkin, I think. Vedalkens are a race from Ravnica. So he was just kind of pulling different races out and saw Vedalken and grabbed it. And I thought, at first I was like, oh, Vedalken, seriously? And then I'm like, pretty much every race fits here. Like, it's such a kind of crazy mountain, and Deepdelvers is sort of this melting pot. That one thing that is sort of an an unwritten advantage of this place is you can play really weird characters. Like, it works just fine as like a place for really weird characters. So a Vedalken Evoker Wizard is great, and they sort of are an explorer of the magic and stuff like that. So he is a Grendleroot, I think is a Grendleroot Sage. He kind of doesn't know he's a Grendleroot Sage, but he's a Grendleroot Sage. And he's going to learn more about what exactly is going on there. So, cats. That one's in the laundry basket. Lunatics, you guys. So, it's kind of cool. And then the next one is Rissa-An. Rissa-An is a fighter wizard Githyanki, who is an astral traveler who came to the mountain because he knows about the Grendleroot and the caretakers and the fact that they came from the astral plane and crashed here. So he's kind of studying from the other angle. So there's a lot going on with these characters. And I'll tell you, so one major thing that helped, and it became our final stretch goal, and we reached it. It was like a stealth stretch goal. Let's see if I can find it here. Was this thing. And I think I talked about this last session too. The Grendleroot Player's Guide. This is going to be in the playtest packet. And I talked about this last week too. And this is I gave this out to my players beforehand, and it's one page. I base this on Matt Colville's idea of the one page sort of campaign outline, and it is very focused on who the characters are, like what you know and who you might be, and your goal here in the mountain. And it's meant to be kind of evocative and drop a lot of like specific things. It talks about the Archmages of the Black Star. It talks about the Order of the White Sun. It talks about the Glyph Giants, and it talks about the caretakers. It's got a lot of stuff here. I think it really only needs 3. I have 4 truths, but I have a feeling that I really only need 3. Although, I don't know. I can live with 4, maybe. We'll see. Like, it feels like truth 1 and truth 3 are really kind of the same thing. But maybe not. One is like the mountain itself is really vast, and the other one is about the history laying beneath the mountain's chambers. So I think it might be okay. I'm not sure. I'm going to think about this. But the nice thing about this is it'll be a nice, well-formatted thing. It's going to be free to everybody, so you can give it out to your players as part of the player kit, even if you're just running the Starsong Tower one. It'll be part of that pre-gen character packet. So I gave this out, and it really helped. Like, I was even surprised at how much it helped, because when players came to the table, they had characters tied, like all this stuff, they were tied in. It was really strong. So, and that means it's a lot easier for me to yank on these hooks. The fact that Rissa-An is an astral traveler and knows about Grendleroot stuff, and the fact that Adrick Foamtankard is a member of the Order of the White Sun, that is going to matter a lot in this next adventure. So, there's lots of, there's lots of cool hooks that I think are going to work out. Evil John says, I'm curious about the player guide. I thought what Matt had said made a lot of sense. I'm interested to see how this works in anger. In anger? My gut tells me moving some secrets and clues to be player facing will cover most of the material you need. Yeah, so, and that's right. These are not secrets and clues. The truths are not secrets and clues. They are known. Like, everybody knows these things. And that's what, it's one of the things that makes them really powerful. So yeah, it did. I can tell you that, at least in my experience, it worked really well. I didn't do anything. I wrote it and then I handed it to people and they built characters off of it, and it worked really well. Now I got players that are used to me kind of doing this sort of stuff, so it wasn't hard. But yeah, and one thing, this is a first draft. I just wrote it, and then I think I did like a 1-pass edit. But I really want to make sure that it is heavy on the fiction and heavy on the story, right? That it really kind of makes my dream is that players read this and their heads go, right? It's like, wow, this place is awesome. I still want to adventure here. That's what I'm trying to get. We'll see. We'll see if that works out that way. I don't know why my window is kind of not lined up right, but whatever. So let's talk about okay, so that was step one. We have the characters. They're in my head. The characters are in my mind. I'm prepared. So then we look at the other 7 steps, and the reality is these 7 steps are in the adventure, the White Queen. So, and it's called Vault of the White Queen. I got to rename this thing. I already have an edit. So Vault of the White Queen is, so in our last episode, in our last game, I ran the adventure Shatter. And in Shatter, a priest of light, a blind priest of light, came to the Enclave and blew up a Grendleroot spire. He blew up the thing that cannot be blown up. And the characters were, and then he disappeared. And but his apprentice knew where he was going. So the characters followed him down to a place known as the Iron Forest of Black Iron, something like that. And they faced him at the World Pillar, which was a huge Grendleroot pillar that was holding up a good piece of the mountain. If that pillar collapsed, much of the mountain would collapse too. And they confronted him and they fought him. And I think he was clearly like twisted by Grendleroot corruption. So at first they took the amulet that he had that let him see the Grendleroot and they gave it back to him. He was empowered again and tried to fight him. They killed him. So he's dead. But in the meantime, they captured this Grendleroot thing. And they have this Grendleroot amulet in their possession. They know that it's heavily cursed, so they don't really want to connect to it. But the Grendleroot was wounded, right? For like the first time ever, one of its spires blew up. So that fits well into the intro of the White Queen. And I'm going to kind of skip down the summary and follow the adventure as the steps of the return are laid out. So the adventure starts with a talent show going on at Deepdelvers Enclave. And during the talent show, this is a good opportunity to be like, what talent are you showing off during the Deepdelvers Enclave talent show? And then during it, a sage runs in and says, holy cow, the Grendleroot is about to wake up. And they're like, what? And then all of a sudden the Grendleroot moves. And in Grendleroot terms, it barely moves at all. But in mountain terms, it moves a lot. Like it causes these huge quakes and all kinds of chambers open up and new chambers are buried and all kinds of stuff. And it damages Deepdelvers Enclave. And, I have this like, what events occur while Deepdelvers Enclave is under all this strain. And if you want to, I don't think I'm going to bother with it because I'm running a 3-hour game. But if you want to, and you're running a longer adventure and you want more stuff to happen, you can drop in some mutated direwolves kind of crawl out from a big crack and attack. So if you want to start with a battle, that's a way to start with a battle. And the adventure could go it could be short otherwise. So if you're running 4 hours, it can't hurt to do something like this. It's hard to gauge. And actually one of the tricky bits of these adventures, and it's still something I'm noodling through, is like I have dials for increasing or reducing the amount of time that they take. But sometimes you don't know what path your characters are going to take later. And if they take a longer path and you thought they were going to take a shorter path, you could go long. So I have to figure out like how to put the dials in the parts of the game that matter. And you'll see examples in some of the events, in some of the areas that occur. So the start of it is the Grendleroot wakes up, it quakes, and bad things happen in Deepdelvers Enclave, and maybe wolves show up, but probably not in mine. I don't think I'm going to bother with the wolves. Because I know what a wolf, I don't have to playtest a direwolf fight. I don't know, we'll see. And 3 direwolves. This is level 4, I think. The characters are level 4 for this adventure. Four fourth level characters. So 3 direwolves is about right. And direwolves are nasty, and they're running around and causing all kinds of problems. But it's kind of like every time something bad happens in Deepdelvers Enclave, something crawls out of the ground and attacks. And it's like, man, but adventures usually solve the problem. So after the quake, the sage says the Grendleroot is awake and it's going to quake like this again, and we need to quiet it down. We need a Grendleroot whisperer, right? We need somebody to somehow reach out to the Grendleroot. And there is really only one being in all of the Enclave, in all of the mountain, who knows how to do this. And that's a being known as the White Queen. And however, there's a complication, which is the queen is actually one of the archmages of the Majorcracy of the Black Star. She escaped when the Majorcracy was thwarted by the Order of the White Sun. But I know where her vault is. I know where she went. And if we want to quiet the Grendleroot, we need to go down and talk to her and convince her to quiet the Grendleroot. And that's sort of the quest. Go to the vault of the White Queen and convince the White Queen to quiet the Grendleroot. So the nice thing is, because in the last adventure, Shatter, the Grendleroot was wounded, that can be the motivator for why the Grendleroot woke up. If you run this adventure on its own, it still happens. It's just not clear why it happened. So, the Grendleroot just, kind of shudders and it can kind of quake, and it could take a long time. But the sage is saying, no, it happens pretty often. You're probably going to do something. So, Gonkin says that, here's the map with the 3-day journey to the 2 possible entrances you can take to get to the White Queen. And there's 2 paths that the characters can take. Path number 1 is there is a village called Redstone, and these are villagers who have lived down there for centuries, ever since the White Queen arrived down there, or retreated down there. This village has sort of been there, sort of protecting her and worshiping her and making sure that everything is smooth. And there is a priest down there who named Cable of the White Mantle, who and Cable kind of makes sure everything is smooth, and they have a yearly sacrament that they give to the White Queen. And that's one path you could take, is go and talk to them, and maybe they'll help you. The other path is there is a hunting ground for the White Queen's main guardian, a vampire gladiator named Threx. Threx guards the White Queen's vault, no matter what. But Threx also goes out hunting, and in the area he hunts is this big cavern that's sort of his hunting ground. And there's the remains of many beasts, and there's probably some other nasty critters there. Cable's Cabal, nice. If you are not so interested in talking to the people of the village, you can instead try to go through the hunting ground, and you can get through that way. So if you think about it, so it's 2 paths. Let's pull up the map. This is the path. So area number 1 is Threx's hunting ground. Area 2 is the village of Redstone. And you can kind of go in either direction that you want. And the nice thing is that they are sort of like, do you want to fight or do you want to talk? And if you want to talk and negotiate your way through, you can go to Redstone. If you want to just fight your way there, you could probably go through the other one. And the groups can kind of decide, we're probably better at fighting than talking, or probably better at talking and fighting. Maybe we'll go through one way or the other. Now, both end up sort of at the same place, which is the Vault of the White Queen itself, which is Area 5. And you could go back and forth through them. So, so those are the different paths that one could take. So let's talk about our secrets and clues before we get there. We have some secrets and clues. Again, kind of following our strong start. We have our intro scenes. We'll get into scenes more. Secrets and clues we'll cover now. Grendleroot is the alien intelligence within it. If you paid attention to previous ones, you know this too. None can hope to understand it, but that doesn't mean communication isn't possible. Corvillia is one of the 9 mages of the Majorcracy of the Black Star. I mentioned that. When the Order of the White Sun overthrew the Majorcracy, Corvillia escaped to her vault. I mentioned that. Corvillia's bodyguard, Threx, was once an accomplished gladiator of the Majorcracy of the Black Star before becoming Corvillia's bodyguard. A village of humans resides outside the White Queen Vault. They have no children, but have lived many decades beyond their years. One of the things is they are slowly drinking vampire blood. They're not becoming vampire spawn exactly, but they've become sterile and they are much older. So they look like 20 or 30 years old, but they're actually, they look like they're like 20s to 80s, but they're actually centuries old. But they're like normal people otherwise. Each year, the people of Redstone give their blood to the White Queen and accept her sacrament in return. The people of the village treat Threx like an emissary of their god. Threx treats them like livestock. He protects them like a shepherd. Corvillia was once known as the daughter of death and ruled over the undead armies of the... I think I already said that one. That probably needs to be edited. Yeah. Corvillia was once known as the daughter of death and ruled over an undead army in the Majorcracy of the Black Star. Fearsome through the Majorcracy, she has chosen to sleep the centuries away in solitude in her vault. Villagers have become a small community around a stream, mushroom farm, and small horned pigs native to the mountain that they have tamed. Threx does not guard Corvillia's vault continually. It's said he goes out hunting, and when he does so, he commands other creatures to protect the vault. So there's other ways to kind of sneak into the vault, maybe, if you don't feel like dealing with Threx. So those are the secrets and clues. Locations. So we have a few, as you imagine, a few fantastic locations. We have Area 1 is called the Field of Bones. This is Threx's hunting ground. It's filled with impaled skeletons of orcs that he killed from when an entire orc tribe came and tried to raid Redstone, and he murdered every one of the orcs himself personally, including their ogre leader, and stuck all their skeletons everywhere to be like, don't come here. Like, don't be an ass. You know, you're going to die. And a bunch of packs of ghouls and aghast hunt through the remains of the dead. They leave Threx alone. Threx leaves them alone. You know, they don't really care. The ghast is intelligent enough to share its secrets of Threx in exchange for its life. So it's an opportunity to share some secrets. There's a bunch of golden stuff lying around here too, because Threx doesn't care about money. Number 2 is the village of Redstone, which is a very small village. Only has about 30-ish people that live here, maybe even fewer. You know, it's just a few families that live here. And they have a mushroom grove that they eat from. They have a small farm with some horned pigs that they eat from. But the reality is you can kind of look at it, and there really isn't enough food here to sustain them, yet somehow they continue to live on. So they don't look great. But they still hang out here. And then 3 is the White Temple, which is actually a really nicely built temple that the people of Redstone built. And Kobold, the priest, spends his time here. Kobold is the sort of, venerator of the White Queen, and helps lead them in their sacrament and kind of preaches to them about, the gift that she gives to them and everything else. And there's always a bunch of villagers that kind of hang out here and listen to his sermons, which could take place pretty much all throughout the day. He carries a wand of paralysis as well. So that's Area 4 is the Tree of Blades. So this is a Grendleroot tree that has pierced up through the ground and spread out. And Threx has stuck a bunch of skulls on there of villagers who have displeased him. And they have sat there for, a long time. So, he's like, look, he's using them as like scarecrows against outsiders and also to keep the people inside. There's a pair of phase spiders. He has a pair of trained phase spiders that kind of follow him around, and they'll do his bidding, and he feeds them, and they'll go hunting. They guard the door when he's not guarding the door, when he's out hunting. The tree is also the way that the White Queen can talk to the Grendleroot when she wants to come out and talk to the Grendleroot. And then we have the vault door. So then we have vault door, Area 5. So Area 5 is a big 80-foot cavern with a huge glyph that's on the ground. The glyph is a heavy necrotic, as you can imagine, is a heavy necrotic ward. Solara is the one word that will get through the door. Solara is the name of Corvilia's elven daughter before she became a vampire. It's the one thing that she still kind of cares about and she thinks about. One of the keys is that Kobold has an amulet, and the amulet belongs to the White Queen's daughter. And if she sees it, she'll kind of remember her humanity and can be swayed towards helping mortals, even though she doesn't really, she's like this millennia-old vampire. So if you screw around with the statue, it will grab you and bite you and draw your blood. This is how the sacrament is given to her. No one actually goes into the vault. No one ever actually sees the White Queen. She just rests in her vault. And then if you try to get through the glyph, you'll get hit with a necrotic blast that blows through the whole cavern, kills everybody in the cavern, doesn't kill them all. It's the equivalent of a glyph of warding, I'm sure, somewhere in here. Somewhere I have a thing about the glyph of warding. Oh yeah, I forgot to highlight it here, so I need to fix that up. I'll remember to do that. So when he's not here, there's a couple of phase spiders here. So if like the characters decide to get all Metal Gear Solid about it and like make sure that the vampire is gone, and then they'll go to the door when he's not there, which is an option. Some phase spiders will still be there. And then they can try to sneak through and hopefully maybe keep an eye out. There's a lot of different ways to approach this adventure, which of course from a timing perspective is a little tricky. So, a little tricky. So who is Threx? So Threx is a vampire spawn. This is something I've been experimenting with, which is how to take a standard stat block and modify it. And I'm using the techniques that is already used inside of other published Wizards of the Coast adventures, which is, say the Threx uses vampire spawn with the following changes. Challenge rating is increased to 6 because he's hardcore. He has 112 hit points. That's the hit points of a gladiator. He wields a greatsword and can make 3 melee weapon attacks plus 6 to hit as an action, and each sword attack does 2d6 plus 3 slashing damage on a hit. He doesn't provoke opportunity attacks when he moves out of an enemy's reach. As a bonus action, he can cast the spell Command, roaring the word grovel at his target. So he can say grovel, and the guy grovels on the ground, and it goes bang, 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 and slams on him with a greatsword. Threx uses he has a suit of magical armor that puts a fire shield on himself, and he uses that before entering combat. And that's one of the pieces of treasure. It's a +1 suit of leather armor. If he's not at the door, a pair of trained phase spiders are there. If you want to make the battle harder, also, you can have him plus the phase spider. So if you have like 6 characters, dropping a couple phase spiders in there on top of the vampire could be really badass. So, but he's like a 30 damage a round kind of guy that he's dishing out. So he's already dishing out a fair bit of damage. We'll see if he's tough enough. Like, level 4 characters. How many hit points does a level 4 character have? A fighter would have like 12 plus, 6? 12, about 40-ish hit points. So, he's not going to drop somebody each round. He can also, though, because he can move without provoking, he can go after your weakest guys first. He can hit clerics first. He's badass. And fire shield, which means that they're hitting him in melee, they're taking damage. So he's pretty tough from that aspect. You may fight him, you may not. And actually fighting him is not an end to the adventure. If you kill him and get through, that doesn't necessarily mean the White Queen won't work with you. So then you have the Vault of the White Queen itself. This is assuming you get in. Threx can get you in, and I think Cable can also get you in. Cable actually knows the word that can get into the vault as well. So if you kill Threx, and I didn't mention that in here, so that's something I gotta mention. I should put this in my notes. Let's see, playtest notes. I already have some playtest notes. So what did I say? Highlight the glyph. Cable knows the word to get into the vault. That might actually become a secret. So one thing is like maybe one of the other people, maybe there are no children there, but other villagers might have overheard the word. They might know it. The word might be something that someone else knows. So the vault itself. And that's where the artwork came from. That is the vault. I think it looks awesome. Vault of the White Queen. Long walkway of smooth stone splitting a large square pool. Black water, 6 braziers burning on each side. Illuminate a huge statue of an elven woman sitting atop a throne. And she just looks like from a totally different time. If no one has entered the vault in hundreds of years, the White Queen is called. A mist flows out and forms into her. She is an elven vampire. With the following changes: CR of 21, intelligence of 20, and she has the spellcasting features of a lich. I'm not bothering to spell out all of the features that she has, because if you fight her, you're pretty screwed. You're 4th level and she's casting Power Word Kill, so she can easily take you down. But she's not hostile, right? The nice thing is she's like, "Why did you wake me up?" And she listens to them quietly. But the key is that she is an alien mind, right? Not alien like Grendleroot alien. She's alien like she's 1,000 years old. Like, what are you going to say to impress her? And why would she give a shit? So, it's pretty important that she has this kind of thing. But there's a couple of ways. I outline a couple of ways she can be convinced in the adventure itself. One way is she's shown the talisman, and blood begins to drip from her eyes as she cries. I'm stealing that from True Blood. And she kind of remembers her humanity and says, yeah, okay. Another way would be if one of you, so you killed if you killed Threx, then one of you can become my new servant. And if you do that, yeah, I'll go ahead and quiet it. Right. So then one of the players can be like, okay. And especially for a one-shot game, this could be a really cool ending. People would love to be a vampire. And she's like, okay. And she'll form you into one of her vampire spawns, and then you work for her. But then there could be other ways too. And I don't outline other potential ways. But one could be like, do you really want to die here? Do you want to be buried? And she's like, I'll be buried and then I'll be dug up again. It doesn't matter to me. But she's like, she could be convinced, like, yeah, but what about these people that worship you? She's like, they chose to do that. So, it's a little hard to convince her. But convince her you must. And if she's convinced, then she goes to area 4. She goes back to the tree, puts her hand on the tree, and she whispers words that no one can understand. And the Grendleroot quiets. And then she says, okay, I'm going back. And then she goes back and returns. So then that's how you quiet it, is you convince the vampire to quiet the Grendleroot, and she does. And that is the end of the adventure. This bring updates from her. Yeah, they bring her updates from a local sports team. Yeah, I don't know. I have a feeling all the sports team are dead. Oh, look, I got a sleeping cat. Guess no more getting beat up. So we'll see what trouble spots exist. This one, a little bit like Shatter, has the trouble spot of, like, you seriously want us to go negotiate with one of the archmages of the Black Star. Like, why is that a good idea? Why not just leave the mountain? And that's an option. But it's like, but there's so much down here, like, so it's a little hard when, like, the right answer is, like, don't talk to a vampire. Like, that doesn't go well. But this is adventuring, So, that's a, her daughter's long gone. Century's dead. Yeah, so you can't bring her back. Curiosity, sure. Like, the curiosity is one of the main drivers of curiosity is definitely a big motivator for anybody to be in this mountain in the first place. And they, like, if they would have left, they would have left long ago. Like, they're not here because, they're not here, right? The amulet just reminds her of what mortality was like. Which actually plays into, and I was going to talk about it if I had time. It looks like I have a little bit of time, which is what the larger campaign would look like. And she becomes like a major NPC in the campaign because she's one of the remaining archmages of the Majorcracy who's on the sides of the characters, where the other 3 are all like, don't care. If you kill Threx, would that kill the village? It would only kill the village if you kill Threx and you do not agree to become a vampire, but she could probably just make one. She may make Cable a vampire, right? She might, that might be her requirement then, is like, one of you have to take Threx's role and help protect my flock, right? Or she could, like, well, I guess Cable, you'll be the one. And he's like, oh yes, thank you, Miller. And she chews him up, and then he comes back and now he's a vampire priest, right? And now he rests outside with his glowing red eyes, and now somebody else from the village will have to take over. So yeah, there could be a lot of options there. So I think it's cool. We'll see how it runs. I always feel real nervous about running these. Like, oh, this is gonna suck, right? But so far I've run them and they've all come out pretty well. And I would hope they would, because I wrote them. So I'd hope I can run my own adventure well. So the real test will be how they do in playtesting. And my hope is that they'll do okay in playtesting. And if they if they don't, then we'll work on them. So that'd be that would be the delay. If we're not delayed, we're in a good spot. The only requirements, the adventures can be completely different. The only requirements are that they have to use the same map and they have to use the same art, because I'm not redoing the maps and the art, but I can write the whole thing over again if I need to. So Kellis, if you are interested in this, and if you back the Kickstarter, I hope you did, then you can sign up for the playtests and you can see them right away. You can see them within this month, and help out. So we'll see how that goes. And that kind of covers, so as you saw, like, if we look at the steps of return, strong start, scenes, secrets, fantastic locations, notable NPCs, monsters, treasure, they're all in here, right? I got them all listed out. And so I don't really, like, more so than other published adventures, I ought to be able to run these with just what I have in front of me. And my hope is that, oh, that's just mean. What are you doing? One cat's ambushing the other cat. So they're pretty solid. I should say I feel pretty solid about this. So I thought I would preview a little bit of something else I've been working on. So most of this book is in 2nd, 3rd, 4th drafts. I have a couple chapters I've only looked at once. That I need to go back. Some of the stretch goal chapters I wrote, but I didn't edit yet. So I need to go back and edit those. But I figure I'm going to be working on those chapters while the playtests are underway. But there's one chapter that I've been working on that is one that really is pretty interesting to me and a lot of fun. And that is the campaign arc. So the book itself So pardon me again. We'll spend 10 minutes or so. If there's anything anybody else wants to talk about, I was thinking about like other D&D news going on right now, and I didn't really, nothing over the past week really grabbed much of my attention. I don't think anything really big happened. So we'll talk more about my stuff. So the book covers adventures for characters level 1 to 5. But I also, one of the final stretch goals was a 6 to 20 campaign arc. And my idea for this, I had two sort of motivators for this. One was that I wrote for fun a 1 to 20 null campaign. This is after reading Volo's guide. I was like, what would a null campaign look like? And I wrote a 1 article sort of campaign with fronts and truths, and then the outline of like what each level would be like, where you would go and what would happen. And I got a lot of good feedback on this. People kind of thought it was cool to have sort of an outlined campaign like this. So I dug that a lot. And the other thing I dug, you can see this on, if you go to Sly Flourishing or Google The Hunger, or do what I did, Sly Flourish Null Campaign, you'll get it. And, I love the idea that it starts with watching a hyena turn into a gnoll and then ends with them fighting Yinagu in Yinagu's, in the Prince of Savagery and the Throne of Courses in the Maw. They, going to the Death Dells, which is Yinagu's abyssal plane. So I thought like that major scope of the campaign. The other bit of inspiration from this came from the adventure, which I'm going to be running very soon, Ghosts of Saltmarsh. By the way, if you're not digging all the Fantastic Adventures talk on this show, don't worry. It will probably only be another week or two, and then we're going to get back into talking about Ghosts of Saltmarsh. I'll be running from both my groups, so I'll be talking a lot about this. But I loved, and if you go to the Saltmarsh regions, I've been talking all about this in Ghosts of Saltmarsh. There's one section where they talk about the Dreadwood, right? And the Dreadwood has this, it's a pretty small section, really. It starts here, the Dreadwood, and it ends down here at Drowned Forest. But the Dreadwood, if you read it, is like a 1 to 20 or like a 10 to 20 campaign. It's all about a night hag. I think I talked about it here before, and all of her, the night hag and her, she's got vampire consorts, and she's got 23 Oni that act as her personal mentors and enforcers, whole bunch of different places to explore, a bunch of things going on, a random encounter list, all this stuff. So I love this idea, and I was like, the fact that they managed to, in like 1,000 words, how big is this? Let's grab it, count the words. I'm not going to count the random. So 700 words, right? So in 700 words, they wrote like a 10-level campaign. And I just think that's awesome. So I said, I want to do something like that, expand it a little bit, but a chapter that says, if you love Shadow Reach, if you love Ruins of the Grendleroot, and you love Blackclaw Mountain, and you wanted to keep going, how would you do so? And also, what are some interesting things that we could talk about in the mountain that is just fun to read? That's something that DMs can just enjoy sitting and reading and enjoying. They don't have to run it. It's just inspiring. So primary goal is to be entertaining. Secondary goal is to inspire DMs to run their own stuff. And third goal is like you could actually take it and run a campaign with it. But my expectation is more the latter one. So this is it. It's a 6,000 word chapter right now. So a little bit bigger than most of the other chapters. And the idea is this is a campaign about the fact that the 3 of the 9 archmages of the Black Star are returning to the Grendleroot, or returning to Blackclaw Mountain. They're already there, but they're waking up. So it's a 3-tier campaign. It starts at 6th level and goes to 20th level. And much like that chapter from the Knolls, it has, I didn't really outline it like Return with the fronts and all that, but they're all there. So it has the plot of the archmages. There are 3 of them: Yalan the Void, Ulan the Mind Dancer, and Carrick Blackiron. And what their goals, right? They're all trying, the Black Star, which is this extraplanar elder evil, is coming to the world because of chapter 1 in this adventure book. So Call of Starsong Tower is about the fact that the Grendleroot used Starsong Tower to beam up some kind of message into the plains, and it reached the Black Star, which might be its mother, it might be some elder brother, who knows what, but they connected. And now the Black Star is like, wow, there's a place, I'm going there. And it starts coming their direction. And as it comes there, the archmages of the Black Star go, oh my God, it's coming. We should all get to work. So they all come up and they're all getting to work. So So we have 3 archmages of the 3 fronts: Yalan the Void, Ulan the Mind Dancer, Carrick of the Black Iron, or Carrick Black Iron, right? Yalan of the Void is sort of a lich who studies shadow stuff, shadow magics, right? Ulan the Mind Dancer is an illusionist who is trying to turn illusions into reality, create, blend blend dreams and reality together. Carrick Blackiron is a forge master who wants to use Grendleroot iron to build stuff and wants to build vast machines. That's their goal. He wants to build giant starships out of Grendleroot stuff. I have my little talk about combining stat blocks in here. There's lots of times in this where I take 2 stat blocks like Iron Golem Mages and I mash them together, and this is like how you do it. Or how you could do it. So I don't go into detail about making these monsters because I don't even know if you're going to use them. But if I say Cloud Giant Archmage, you should know that you can take a Cloud Giant stat block and add the Archmage stats to it, and then you've got this combined creature. So this is a little thing that just says, go do that. I'm still noodling through this kind of stuff, and you'll see I've got some ideas about what to do. So tier 2 is called Graves of the Nine, and here is, we think the 9 are waking up or something is going on, and we need to figure out what's going on. And each of these little sections is sort of a mini adventure, right? And there's going to be one for every level of play from 6th to 20th level. So there'll be 15 of them. The first one is the Gray Swamp. I'm not going to go through every single one of these. I'll just give some couple of examples. So Gray Swamp, for example, is there's a bunch of lizard folk that have been trading with Deepdelvers Enclave for a while, but they have recently cut themselves off. They destroyed a bridge and sealed off a road that could get Deepdelvers to their lizards, to the lizard tribe. So Balin is like, dudes, we need your help. Can you go out there? It's going to be a hard journey because you got to go through the swamp to get there because the road is down. But we need you to go and talk to the lizard folk and find out why they cut off contact. And in doing so, there's giant crocodiles, there's a green hag named Moss Teeth, there's lots of trolls, and there's a young black dragon named Kyrick the Black Death that all exist in the swamp. So they have to navigate through the swamp, get to the lizard folk and find out what's going on. And what they find out is that the lizard folk are now at war, and it was Grimlock tribes. I'm getting rid of the Grimlocks, so don't worry about the second one here, because it's going to go from Grimlocks to an ogre to a goblinoid tribe. So there's a goblinoid tribe led by a hill giant, Grega and her 3 hill giant, a bunch of hill giants. And they have a hydra named Nine Maws, and they're really bad people, but their deal is like they found out that other tribes have been getting enslaved by the archmages. Like the archmages are coming back, and already agents of the archmage are enslaving goblinoid tribes and taking them to places. So they're figuring that out. So the Grendleroot exists on all mirror planes in the same space. That's up to you, man. Bishop Odo says, does the Grendleroot exist on all mirror planes at once? That sounds cool. Go with it. I don't know that I'm going to go that far. So in this book, I'm treating Blackclaw Mountain as its own thing. You can put it anywhere. You can drop it in any world, but you can decide how far its roots go. I know that it can talk outside of the planes. So first third-party FR adventures through Phandalin region expansion plan through D&D Beyond is pretty interesting. The Phandalin region expansion. Yeah, it is. Sorry, yeah, you're talking about the other one. Yeah, the 3 extra adventures. I guess we don't know a whole lot about them. I don't know if we have to pay for them or not. I'm happy either way. But I think it's very cool that essentially we have another 1 to 11 campaign, 1 to 13 campaign coming out this year. So we have like 3 1 to 13 campaigns coming out this year. It's crazy. Anyway, so Goblinoid tribe finds out that they're getting enslaved, and the characters can find out that they're getting enslaved by talking to them. They're probably gonna have to fight a bunch of them too, and learn that, oh my god, the archmages are coming back. Sunken City, you return to the Aboleth lair, where 3 Aboleths are now deciding among themselves whether they're going to support the archmages of the Black Star or go against them. Twilight Forest, you got to go talk to the grandfather, which is a huge tree that's in a Grendleroot corrupted forest filled with dire trance, corrupted centaurs, dark elf druids, in order to learn the words that, in order to learn what the archmages are up to. And I'm going to change this moved a little bit too. Obviously, this is first draft, so I got to do a lot of work on this. But my goal with this was to kind of have these, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those are the tier 2 things. By the end of tier 2, you find out the archmages are awake, they are working on stuff, and they are doing some bad things. I have this thing about Yalan's shadows, which is how to take any monster and turn it into a shadow version of itself. Then the Majorcracy Returns. These are essentially tier 3 is all about dismantling the things that the archmages are trying to set up. So here they're trying to deal with an Afridi. I think I might get rid of that one. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep that one. Queen's Hammer. They got to get a hammer that opens up Carrick Black Iron's monolith. I got to fix that one too. Black Obelisk we like, which is Carrick Black Iron has drawn a huge obelisk out of the ground, and it's filled with great power. And you want to go sink it back into the land again. Grendelhide's Lair is they're recruiting an adult black dragon that they want to use as like a terror weapon. And you have to either convince the black dragon not to join them or kill it. Demon Queen, there's a slab containing the prophecy of the Black Star. Marilith Mummy Lords with abyssal chambers untouched in thousands of years. Vrock Whites, Hezro mummies. So it's a demonic tomb, which I think is pretty cool. Rise of the Black Star is all about facing the archmages themselves. And the idea here is you'll probably go to the lairs of one of them and kill one of the archmages. The other ones are going to be moving forward. You return to the Black Cathedral. That's the final adventure. And then eventually go to the Black Gate, which is a gateway that opens up to the Black Star itself. And then you go to the Black Star, in which you fight an Archmage Tarask. So I'm still playing with a lot of these. And you can see like I've got all my notes of like older ones that I might use or, that I didn't like. My wife and I spent some time talking through a lot of these last night, and we're kind of like, that's okay. But the idea with these is like you should read it and be like, wow, that's an interesting idea. I might want to steal that for my own game. Or, wow, that's just fun to read. Or, it's just mind candy is really what I'm trying to accomplish with this. So it's a fun chapter to work on. And I've been spending most of my time when I'm not getting the Playtest Adventures ready. I've been working on this. So my goal is to have like the first draft of this done. This is still not even complete. I'd like to have the first draft of this done about the time when the playtest packets go out, and then I can start editing the other chapters and everything will be smooth. So, but it's a lot of fun to write. These things are really fun to write. I tried to write 30 of them and then take the best 15. I wrote about 22 and then started to decide which ones I liked. And now I might fill in gaps. I had this one like the Bone King, who's like the new version of the White Queen that she's coming back. I kind of like this one. And you have to disable his undead army before it attacks. That might be one of the tier 3 or the first tier 4 one. I might put that back in. So we'll see. Fun stuff. This is, I use Word. So Mind Candy. There's a bug. So Scott Fitzgerald Gray, who's doing the editing and layout for this, has templates set up with styles that use Word. So I used to write them all in Sublime, but I'm moving them from Sublime into Word and then using the Word styles that fit with the templates. So that way it's an easier conversion to take the Word document and turn it into an InDesign. I actually rented, you can't really buy InDesign anymore. I signed up for InDesign just enough that I can learn like how that works. I really don't understand how InDesign works at all. So that's something I'm trying to teach myself. Not to actually do layout. I'm always happy having other people do layout who are much more experienced, but I'd like to at least understand what's going on. I need to know like how easy, how hard is it? So Scott Fitzgerald Gray. Scott Fitzgerald Gray he is a very accomplished Wizards of the Coast freelancer. He where is it? He was the creative lead. Where's the credits? He was one of the creative directors of the recent Penny Arcade Acquisitions Incorporated book. And anyway, he and I worked together years and years ago on Vault of the Dracolich. Myself and Teos Abadia and Scott Gray all worked together, and we hit it off. And Scott, since then, has always been willing to edit the works that I put out, including Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master. So he's been a big partner behind all of the books that I've put out since Fantastic Locations. He edited Fantastic Locations, Fantastic Adventures. His son-in-law was the developer for the Lazy DM workbook, and he did the editing for it and layout. No, he did the editing for it. Layout was done by Eric Nowak. He did the editing for Return, and he is doing the editing for this book as well. So yeah, like that's, you want to know where it's great. He's a fantastic dude, and I'm really happy to have him on board. Couldn't be happier. So he is also agreed to do the layout for the book. So that's one of the reasons why I think this book is going to be as good as it is. I'm always happy with the stuff I'm doing, but I think it's something else when you get a guy like Scott Gray to be able to do editing for you. It's amazing. It is 11 o'clock. I need to go get my stuff together and head to the game shop and run Vault of the White Queen, and we will see how it goes. So next week, I will describe how it goes. I think I'm going to have 1 to 2 more playtests for them. So we'll have a couple more sessions of these, and then we will begin Ghosts of Saltmarsh probably at the end of July. So thank you all for coming into the Twitch chat. I always love having you guys here. Kellis11 says, what shop do you play at? I play at, what is it called? Paradise in Fairfax. Paradise Comics. However, I'll be running a game, so I can say hello, but I'm usually pretty, I'm usually like, hey, how's it going? And it looks like every other D&D game. But yeah, so I will see all of you guys next week, and have a great week, and go play some D&D.